All right, what is up, Utes fans? This is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest, and we've got a really exciting one for you guys today. Our first FBS home game of the season as San Diego State heads into Rice Eccles to take on the Utes. Big time game, a big time tone setter for the rest of the year. I feel like every game in college football is always the most important game, but I feel like this is really an epically important game. If we want the rest of this season to have any close to the importance and the success that we were hoping for going into the year, this game is a must win. And that's how the rest of this season is going to be. I'm not trying to over dramatize this game, but it is a must win against a team that we should definitely beat, a decent team, but a team that we should definitely beat, and we owe them some revenge from last year. So this should be a lot of fun. If you guys are enjoying the video and enjoy this kind of content, please do hit the like button. It goes a long way in helping grow the channel and get the video out to more Utes fans. Also, comment below, what do you guys think? Anything I'm missing? Anything you guys enjoyed that I covered? And also, if you are a big-time Utah football fan, I love Utah football and I love making the content. But on that note, let's go ahead and start talking about the San Diego States coming into Rice Eccles to take on the Utes. Let's break it down. All right, and first off, to break down the game, obviously we're a couple games into the year. Both teams have a game against an FCS team. You know, they played, San Diego State played Idaho State, and the Utes played Southern Utah. So we both have a game against an FCS opponent, but then we both have a game against an FBS team. Now, to be clear, they played Arizona, which I don't think Arizona is on the level of Florida. Obviously, you look at talent-wise, Florida's top 10 talented team in the country. Arizona, talented team. They've had a few really good recruiting classes, but not quite on the level of Arizona. So just to take that into account, when you look at these, so when I break down the different numbers and rankings for each team for rushing yards, you know, opponent rushing yards, all that stuff, it only takes into account the FBS game. So how this team did against Idaho State and how we did against SUU will not be taken into account in these rankings. When we break down the PFF grades in a little while here, that will take into account both games. So let's go ahead and start talking about it. So first off, San Diego State is a team that likes to run the ball. If you remember from last year, they had a very good running back, and they definitely like to run the ball with him. You know, rush yards per game, they're 50th in the country. So not fantastic there, but they definitely do like to run the ball. The reason they're probably not getting more yards is they are only averaging 4 yards a carry, which sounds solid, and it's not terrible. But for a team that's looking to almost strictly run the ball, you're going to want more rush yard or average yards per rush than 4 yards per carry. To give you guys an idea, the Utah Utes average 5.9 yards per carry, and that's only against Florida. So take that as you will. All right, the next thing is SDSU, their passing yards per game, 129th in the country. Now, this was only against Arizona. It's one game, but they're averaging 62 yards per game in FBS play, which is, you know, straight awful. That is really a bad number. You know, you can't stress that enough. That's a really bad number. But I'd say let's take that with a grain of salt. My only thing that makes me think that maybe that is a little reflective of SDSU, that how bad those passing yards per game is the fact that, you know, Arizona beat them 38-20. When you consider that, you think they were trying to throw the ball and they could only get 62 yards. I mean, that's a little embarrassing. You'd really like to see better than that. I'm not trying to hate on SDSU, but if I was a fan, that would definitely concern me. Okay, so now Utah's offensive statistics. So in pass yards per game, we're 72nd. Remember, this is only counting the Florida game. So 216 yards per game. And then in rush yards per game, we're 16th. And I think when you look at how that Florida defense looked against Kentucky, we'll talk about the Utah defense in a minute. That has some concerns, but how our offense looked against, or how that Florida defense looked against Kentucky, has me feeling pretty good about, you know, how we're going to look against the San Diego State defense. So rush yards per game, we were 16th, and pass yards per game, we were 72nd. I would imagine we'll see a lot more success against a team like San Diego State. But either way, solid numbers. I think that rush yards per game should scare San Diego State with how damn good that Kentucky or the Florida run defense was against Kentucky. Okay, now let's talk about the two teams' defenses. So this is where Utah is going to have some concerns. So opponent rush yards per game. So how many rush yards are you allowing per game? San Diego State is 81st in the country. Now, that's not great. That's not straight terrible, but it's not great, especially going up against a really good running team like Utah. If I was San Diego State, I'd be a little worried about that. The concerning thing, if you're a Utes fan, is that we are 128th in the country. So basically rock bottom. That's in the one game, though. I don't think that's reflective of a season. Just like I don't think San Diego State's 62 passing yards is reflective of what they'll do throughout the season. Florida ran all over our defense, and it is a legitimate concern. I'm not saying that San Diego State's going to do anything near what Florida did, but, they like to run the ball. We have some issues with the run, so we're going to need to really stack that box. And now let's talk about opponent pass yards per game. So for pass yards per game, we are 23rd in the country, which is pretty awesome. Obviously, that was against Florida, who wasn't throwing the ball a ton, but I do think that is pretty reflective of who we are. I think we're a pretty damn good pass defense team. For San Diego State, they are 107th against the pass against Arizona, who's not exactly a spectacular, air it out type of team. So I think that's a good sign for us about how we should do throwing the ball. So a couple things that I think both sides are going to want to watch. So I think for Utah, now we're going to break down the PFF grades to see if this plays out and talk about matchups and stuff like that. But I think a big key for Utah is going to be running the ball, right? They're not a terrible run defense, but we're a really good run offense. 16th in the country against a great defense. I think we're going to want to run the ball, but then also, I think the trick is going to be to get ahead early, right? Get ahead early. This team has a terrible pass offense, and we have a pretty good pass defense, 23rd in the country. So if we can get ahead early and then just be able to pound that rock and force them into a spot where they're not able to run the ball every play, because that's what they want to do. We want to get that big 17, 20-point lead. And I know obviously every team wants that in every game, but just talking about this matchup against a team that wants to run, put them in positions where they have to throw, and that should lead us to success. So hopefully we can air it out early and often, keep that run game going, keep them honest, but, air it out on them and run the ball. I think we'll have success in both areas. For San Diego State, they're going to want to kind of do the same, keep the game close, run the ball down our throat, and, work. What they're probably thinking is a less than stellar run defense. I think they're a little misled if they honestly believe that. But either way, I think if Utah can get ahead early and often, all right, with the pass game, we should be able to take that big lead, prevent them from being able to run the ball all the time, make them pass, which is where they're going to struggle, and that should let us really start to win the game. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the PFF grades and what the matchups are in this game. All right, so let's talk about the PFF grades here. So we'll start with the Utah offense. So Cam Rising is the first guy to take a look at. Obviously, if you're a Utah fan, you know who Cam Rising is. And I'm sure if you're a San Diego State fan, you're aware of the impact that Rising can have on this game. So you take a look at this grade, right? A 78 overall grade, 73.3 pass, 73.8 run. I think you got to take the high and the low here, right? Because and just so you guys know, it's going to be with every player we look at on both sides, San Diego State and Utah. They played one FCS game and one FBS game. For Utah, I think this is only fair that the FBS game has a lot more weight, just because it was against such a good team, or you might even count it a little less because it was against such a good team. But I'll try not to do that to keep everything all fair. But Cam Rising, a really great player, really talented guy. The next position we're gonna, want to take a look at is going to be the wide receivers for Utah. Let's go ahead and take a look. A group that has had a lot of questions coming into this year. How have they been grading out over these first 2 games here? So not great, right? Let's ignore the snap minimum here so we can take a better look. So I love that Luca Caldarella is starting to get a decent grade, right? Just run blocking, but still a hard-nosed kid. Gotta love to see it. Gotta love to see it. So a lot of receivers out here got some playing time against SUU, but didn't look spectacular, right? You'd like to see better grades in this. I think we got to worry about Devon Vele. That's your grade, and part of it is against SUU. Same with Solomon Enos. I'm not crazy about either of those, but hopefully they can bounce back. But I think this is where you guys should be excited. Jalen Dixon and Money Parks, really good grades, and especially it's really good receiving grades. And then Money Parks, even with a decent running grade, that should get you guys excited. I think if I'm the Utah coaching staff, I'm going to find ways to get these two involved. I think that'll go a long way in this game. Okay, so now let's talk about the running backs for Utah. So just to mention again as we look through these that the defense for San Diego State was 81st in rush defense and 107th in pass defense. So just overall, not a great team defensively. So this should be where we'll be able to exploit them. All right, so taking a look at Utah's running backs, let's ignore the snap minimum. Just so you guys know, if you ever want to know, this little row right here that says OFF, short for offensive snaps, is where you'll see how many snaps they've actually played. So that just kind of tells you how reflective is that of their total production, or like how real is this grade and how much is this just based off a small sample size, right? So when we look at running backs, studs across the board, right, guys? I think that's pretty fair to say. We'll show the offensive line here in a minute and how they can impact the game, but I think it's really exciting how good our whole running back room looks. I mean, those are 5 running backs that are probably starters on almost any other team, dude. That's pretty awesome to me. I think if you are San Diego State, you're worried about these running backs. This is a tough room, and we can keep them fresh, right? That's one of our big upsides, is that we can keep all these running backs fresh. We don't actually have any tight ends or fullbacks, so I won't go into that. We do have Logan Kendall, who plays fullback and tight end. So, this is one of the big positions for the Utes. So check it out. You got Brant Keithy, you got Dalton Kincaid, really good receiving grades from both of them. Good receiving grade for Yasmin as well on 34 snaps. Logan Kendall, 38 snaps. And a 75.2 run blocking grade. So when we need him to go out there, load the box, and throw some guys around, he's able to do it. This is the run blocking, that's what I meant. But overall, I think this tight end group, we're going to kind of take a look at the other side of the ball. But what your linebackers are able to do if you're San Diego State is going to be really important to if you are or are not going to be able to stop this tight end room, because our tight ends are going to have to go one-on-one against your linebackers sometimes, and if that's a huge mismatch, then that's going to be a problem. All right, so wait, centers is next. So let's check out the center for Utah. I believe that's going to be Paul Miley. All right, yep, Paul Miley here. So a 61.4 grade, 87.5 pass block grade, kind of a concerning run block grade at a 53.9. You don't love that, especially considering how much we like to run the ball, how good we are at it. I'd say a lot of that's against Florida, right? But I think it'd be worth watching when you see Paul Miley, number 54 in the game. How does he look run blocking? But the pass block grade that's an elite pass block grade, just so you guys know, which is awesome from a center, right? A guy that has to call out blocks, that has to know what he's doing, or we get pressure up the gut. So that's exciting to see. Let's see here. Boom. Next, let's go ahead and look at Utah's guards. So the guards for Utah. Okay, so guards for Utah, we got Keaton Bills and Michael Mokofisi. Let's also add in the snap count taken off, but those guys actually aren't going to play. So let's worry about these two. Honestly, I don't love that these run blocking grades are so low. Kind of the same story as last season. Those of you that were keeping up with the channel know that it took a while till we got good at run blocking. I think a lot of people just assume we were a really good run blocking team all year. But what I do like is how good these pass blocking grades are. And the fact that those are that high this early in the season, and hopefully the run blocking grades can kind of catch up to them, that's a really good sign. So pass blocking for Keaton Bills is a 90.2, and then pass blocking for Mokofisi is a 65.7, which is decent, but the Keaton Bills grade's like an elite pass blocking grade. So that's really awesome, guys, because that means if we want to step back there and throw, if that's the game we want to play and we want to run up the scoreboard, which is going to be a big factor, are we going to be able to do it, right? And it seems like everything I'm seeing says yes. So now we're going to take a look at these offensive tackles. So, all right, let's take a look here. There's a lot to look at. So Braden Daniels, one of the best tackles. You know, he's going, a lot of this is against Florida, some of the best D linemen in the country, a 76.9 pass blocking grade, but a 54.6 run blocking grade. Not great. Braden Daniels, number 71, is a guy that I'm really high on, a 62.4 overall grade. I'm hoping this is a game where he can kind of step up and show what he's made of, because the edge rushers on this team are pretty damn good for San Diego State. So definitely a factor we're going to have to take into account. So Toa Lomea, not great here, right? This is just not a great run, a decent run blocking grade is 64.3, but a really bad pass blocking grade. A little bit of concern there. The good news is Falcon looks fantastic, right? He was playing against SUU for this whole grade, but the 78.9 pass block, 81.8 run block on 30 snaps has to get you excited to where if Lomea was having trouble, you know, he would definitely not be a terrible guy to come in and, you know, fill that spot for him. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to switch to the other side of the ball. So starting with the edge rushers for San Diego State, what is San Diego State bringing? Now, just so you guys are aware, I think a lot of people are just counting San Diego State out. Check out this crew, right, guys? I mean, to be fair, they haven't played anyone amazing, but look at that. Jonah Tavai, 90.4 overall grade at edge rusher. That's really good. His run defense grade is elite. His pass rush grade is very, very good. Keyshawn Banks, a 74.9 overall defensive grade, 74.0 run defense grade, 77.5 pass rush grade. I mean, these are two guys that could definitely cause us some problems. Cooper McDonald's going to get in there too. He has decent grades on both. So definitely a group that we are going to want to, you know, keep an eye on. Seriously, our tackles have not been doing super well. I think they're both very talented. Two of my favorite players in the offense, but they have had some rust they needed to shake off early in this season. So they need to come out and come correct against this edge rusher group, or it'll be a long night. That won't be good. I mean, to be fair, I do think Cam Rising's ability to run around and buy time will do a lot for us, but let's hope they can hold up their end of the bargain as well and kind of show what they're capable of, right? All right, so now let's take a look at the interior defenders for San Diego State. Oh, yep. Boom. All right, so the interior defenders for San Diego State, they just got the one guy really that's getting a decent amount of snaps in Justice Tavai, 99 snaps. So I'm guessing they're going to run, you know, a 3-4 type of technique. 69.4 overall grade, 70.6 run defense, pass rush 62.7. What I'm seeing overall is a lot of good run defenders on this team. So what'll be, I think it kind of matches up well with what we're going to need to do well, if you think about it. To be clear, these are really good players, guys. Don't take them lightly. These are really good players on San Diego State. And I said that last year going into the game, and we all know how that game ended. I agree that we would have won had Cam Rising been the starter at the beginning of the game, but they have some elite talent over there. They are not to be taken lightly. Now, but look at this linebacker group. This is where we'll get an opportunity to kind of pull ahead. But anyways, back just quick, another touch on that point that I was bringing up, that a big part of this is, can we, obviously we're going to want to run, but can we throw the ball and run up the scoreboard early? If we can get a couple touchdown lead early in this game, it is going to take them off. They are not going to be able to run every play like they want to. And if we get a 3-score lead, this becomes a really different ball game. We're going to force them to throw. And in my opinion, that's where it's going to get ugly. So take a look at these linebackers. We have one that's good in run defense, one that's good in the pass rush. But outside of that, they have either average or really poor grades in other areas. I love that. A lot of teams have this with their linebackers, guys, and none of them are good in coverage. None of them. And none of them are good in coverage, which means that if they have to go toe-to-toe with Brant Keithy, Dalton Kincaid, Thomas Yasmin, we are going to make them look silly. And I don't think any of these guys, except maybe Shawcroft, number 46, can go toe-to-toe with Logan Kendall when he goes up there and tries to run block him. So that's really exciting. I think our second level run game is going to be really nice and work really well. All right. And then safeties. So taking a look at the safeties for San Diego State. Bam. All right. Okay, so this is one of the better positions on their group, right? It's funny. Their defense is like really good right up front, really good on the back end with the safeties, but then that linebacker group is pretty atrocious and one-dimensional. So two pretty damn good safeties in Patrick McMorris, number 33, and CJ Baskerville, number 6. CJ Baskerville is 69.5 grade, 68.2 run defense. I really like this type of safety. Both safeties are solid, are pretty good coverage, and pretty good against the run. Not amazing at either, but pretty good in both. Probably a position group we don't want to pick on, but if we need to, we can take some shots on them, if that makes sense. All right, now let's talk about cornerbacks. So with cornerbacks, I think one thing to take into account every time I show one of these grades for San Diego State is that the only tough competition they got these grades against was Arizona, and I think the book is still out on whether or not Arizona is tough competition. So this should be an opportunity for us, guys. We've been wanting to get our corners or our receivers involved more and more, and we've been talking about it a lot. Their best coverage grade for their corners is 67.9 and 65.8. We get a lot of receivers out there. We start to get into some corners here with a 55.6 coverage grade and a 39.3 coverage grade. So I would take a look at this, guys. Number 17, Noah Avenger. He got 73. He's at 73 snaps. And that's, I would just tell you guys, if you see him hit the field, I wouldn't be surprised if we try to pick on him a little bit, right? Like, that's an opportunity for us to throw up a ball one-on-one or get our receiver open in space. That's a good sign. But not terrible corners, not amazing either. So that was the Utah offense against the San Diego State defense and how that might look. All right, so now let's take a look at this San Diego State offense against the Utah defense. So a lot of exciting things to look at here if you're a Utah fan. So first, let's look at the San Diego State offense. So I want you guys to look at this grade and then consider the fact that one of their games was against an FCS team. So a 64.7 overall grade against Arizona and Idaho State. If you're a San Diego State fan, you should be concerned about your quarterback playing Braxton Burmeister, number 5. A 64 grade overall, 63 pass, 61.8 run. And like I said, one of those games is San Diego State. One of those games is Idaho State. Like I've talked about a lot, guys, the key to this game, one of the keys is going to be to shut down their run and force them to pass. I'm sure San Diego State fans will agree with me that they do not want the game on this guy's shoulders. I think that's pretty obvious when you look at that grade. And the fact that I'm guessing it was him, he only threw 62 yards against against Arizona. All right, and now wide receivers for San Diego State. Let's take a look here. All right, so obviously not a lot of great wide receivers here. They've got this one guy, number 14, looks like he could be decent, nothing special. But then a bunch of these other guys, even the guys with good snap counts, they're not really impressing when they're out there. And some that have not even good grades, but low snap counts as well. So I wouldn't stress too much there. We'll look at our corners here in a minute, but I would imagine they really shouldn't have too much trouble with these receivers. Okay. Now, the next group to look at is going to be the running backs for San Diego State. Now, this is probably right up there as one of their best position groups that they have. It's funny. So if you don't turn off the snap count minimum, nobody shows up for their running backs because they definitely run a committee. I mean, look at this, guys. 2 games into the year, they have 4 different running backs with 29 or more carries. And 3 of them have more than 30. They have a guy with 4 carries, a guy with 14 carries. So a lot going on here. Chance Bell, very talented running back in Chance Bell. If you guys remember him last year, talented guy, definitely a guy that could wreck a game if you allow him to, if you allow him to become a playmaker. But Jalen Armstead and Jordan Byrd are 2 of the guys that I'm, keeping an eye on. Overall, guys, it's a very good running back room. There's a couple of guys here. I guess Chance Bell isn't grading out very well this year, but talented guy last year. Either way, no matter who they put out there, this should be a deadly running back room. And I think one of the keys is obviously we want to load the box and prevent any breakaway runs. Either way, shutting down this running back group and tackling well in open space is going to be a key to this game for Utah. They didn't have any fullbacks, I don't believe. All right, and then tight end. So let's take a look at this tight end group. Obviously, we have one of the best tight end rooms in the country. What is San Diego State bringing to the table at tight end? So they have one tight end who kind of struggles in pass block and receiving, but is a good run blocker. It's kind of what you'd expect from a team like this that likes to run the ball. But really, they have another guy in Aaron Green that's pretty terrible across the board. So I would imagine, their tight end shouldn't be too big of a concern. Just watch out Mark Redmond getting one-on-one with the linebackers and stuff like that in the run blocking game. All right, so now let's check out the offensive line for San Diego State. Okay. So San Diego State offensive line starting off with their center, number 72, a 68 grade, 66.5 run block, 60.8 pass block. One thing I like about that grade is even though his overall grade is pretty decent at a 68, his pass block nor his run block is very good. And when you consider that Idaho State plays a role in those numbers, I think our D-line should do just fine against this guy, and hopefully our linebackers do just fine against him as well. They, like I said, they have a lot to prove, right? Our front 7 is the number 1 point position group or area that you can point to and say, like, what do we have there? What are these guys gonna look like when we come out against San Diego State? Okay. And just so you guys know, San Diego State's known for having a pretty damn good offensive line. When you like to run the ball the way they do, you kind of have to have a good offensive line. So this was surprising to me. Check this out, guys. They have really good pass blocking grades, number 63 and number 60, the guards for San Diego State. But run blocking grades are, fairly low, not exactly impressive. That's kind of concerning if you're a San Diego State fan, especially considering part of that's against Idaho State. You'd like those to be higher if you're a San Diego State fan. Like, yeah, you can pass block, which is great. Can you guys throw the ball with rhythm and consistently against a Pac-12 team like Utah and, the best Pac-12 team in Utah? So let's go ahead and move to the next group is the offensive tackles for San Diego State. So Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, number 61, a 67.9 grade. Very solid, well-rounded guy. I'd imagine this guy should be a guy that'll hold up pretty well. Josh Simmons, another guy that's way more of a pass blocker with an 81 pass grade and a 54.8 run block grade. Honestly, if you're a San Diego State fan, you got to be a little concerned about that. It looks like your offensive line is much better at pass blocking than they are at run blocking, and it doesn't look like your team is good at throwing the ball. So that should be something we can take advantage of as we go ahead and start looking at these defensive grades. So corners for Utah. So we're moving on to the defense for Utah. So the cornerbacks for Utah football. Boom. All right. So Clark Phillips III with a 69.6 grade, a 69.2 coverage grade. Travis Broughton, a 64.7 overall grade, 68.8 coverage grade. Pretty bad run defense grade with a 45.5. But we also played some teams that were pretty damn good at running the ball, like Florida. Clark Phillips with a 65.6 run defense grade, pretty solid there. Malone Mattielli, a 60.2 overall grade, but a 65 run defense grade, and a 58.4 coverage grade, which isn't crazy terrible, but definitely not good. If I'm a San Diego State fan and I see that, I'm finding ways that I can pick on him, right? Zamiah Vaughn, though, only on 15 snaps, and I'm guessing that was against SUU. He had a 78.2 grade, 78 coverage grade. So I would not be opposed to letting him get a few more snaps. That's pretty cool. But I feel good about our cornerback room against the receivers. We just broke down the receivers. They really weren't anything special. Now let's take a look at our safeties. Now, our safeties, for some reason, are grading out quite poorly. I don't know what's going on because they look decent when I'm watching the games. But you know how it is with DBs. We're not watching every play the way PFF does, where they dissect it and break it down. So RJ Hubert seems to be just god-awful against the run. A 27.9 run defense grade, with part of that being SUU. I love that Cole Bishop, none of his grades are too low. 61.7 overall grade, 62.6 run defense, 56.6 coverage grade. You don't like to see that. The bright side is a 76.9 pass rush grade. So if we do put them in spots where they have to throw, we can load them up in the box and let them fly. Clayton Isbell got in last week. I mean, none of these safeties, I just put it up on the screen, but none of these safeties look spectacular. Hopefully they kind of make up for it. I'm sure that Florida grade just killed them. It felt like anytime there was a big play, it went for a touchdown, and I'm sure that's part of that grade. All right, so now let's take a look at the linebackers. So the linebackers, a questionable group for Utah. Just so you guys know, you won't see, what's his name here? Lander Barton, because he, spaced out. But you won't see Lander Barton here because he's listed as edge rusher. But Hayden Fury, check this out, guys. Only 9 snaps, right? Only 9 snaps. And you guys know I'm a big Hayden Fury fan. 91.2 overall grade on those 9 snaps. Again, this is against SUU almost. I think that's all these snaps are, is against SUU. But an 83.3 run defense grade and a 75.0 coverage grade. Please, Utah coaching staff, I don't know what you guys are doing. Go get this guy some more reps. Seriously, it is ridiculous how little playing time you guys give this guy. He is awesome. I mean, unless he's just a terrible person at practice, which he doesn't give off that vibe, I would imagine he's someone you want on the field. Karine Reed, struggle a little bit against the run, but not terrible. Just, not where you'd want it to be at a 59.5. 65 pass rush and a 69.1 coverage grade. Mahmoud Diabate, a guy that I talked about a lot, a guy that I'm not surprised to see struggling a little. Good run defense grade, a 67.7, which should help in this game. Same with Mateafa with a 73 grade. I wouldn't be surprised to see Fury, Mateafa, and Diabate see the field with those good run defense grades. All right. Now, interior defense. Let's take a look here. So interior defense was a group that, the first week against Florida really had their troubles. Junior Tafuna with a 52.5 defensive grade. The thing I'd like to point out is how much that jumped from SUU. I think that grade was in the 30s after the SUU game. Okay pass rush, okay coverage, pretty poor run defense. Hopefully that number will go up as time goes on. And you got to hope he kind of shows up this week. That'd be awesome to see. A lot of different guys, contributing here, though, for the interior defense. Honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to some of these guys getting some more reps, right? Like these grades are against SUU, and Junior Tafuna to me looked like a beast against SUU. But if Junior struggles, I mean, Smoda Pepa, Kiana Tanuvasa, why wouldn't we get these guys some more reps if Junior continues to struggle? All right, and now the final position group for the Utes is edge rusher. You got to love Lander Barton with a 67.9 grade, 69.7 coverage, 66.5 run defense. But this guy right here, going to be an impact player in this game, fellas. This should be a game where he can shine. He did well in run defense against SUU, did very well in run defense against Florida. If he could do it there, he can do it here with the 82.7 run defense grade. Jonah Ellis, number 83, he's got to see the field. We got to lean on him a little bit. He is shining right now. I'm sure I'm not the only one noticing it. 69.9 overall grade. He's flying around the field. He's making plays. I wouldn't be surprised to see this guy make a few nice open field tackles, kind of hold the edge really well on some run blocks, get in the backfield a little. I hope that he gets to get out there and make some plays. And that was the offense for San Diego State and the defense for Utah. All right, and so that was the breakdown of the PFF grades for Utah and for San Diego State. I hope that sheds some light for you guys on what both teams are looking to do and what both teams' various position groups are good or struggle at. So I feel pretty good after that, right? I feel like their offensive line is not as good at run blocking as I thought it might be. Now, to be clear, that doesn't mean that we take them lightly. We are a team that can struggle against the run sometimes. I think we're going to see a lot of front seven guys that we might not have seen prior because we are going to have to sell out to stop the run. To me, the keys for Utah to win this game are that we load that box, 7-8 guys in the box every play, right? Every play. And then, we have one guy that's manned up on the running back or something like that, just in case they do a play action. But I think you get in their face, you force them to throw, right? I think if you guys watched the BYU Baylor game, that's what they did. They took a team like Baylor that really wants to run the ball. They were more physical than them, and they forced them to throw. And poor quarterback play did not allow them to win that game. That's what we got to do with San Diego State. So here's the tricks on defense: go hard at them, force them to throw, don't let them run the ball on us. And then on offense, get ahead early, right? Take advantage of the drives. Let's put points on the board. Let's get up 17, 20 points. I know that's what every team wants to do in every game, but if we can do that, we should be able to get up big and force them to throw. And once they're in positions where they are not able to run the ball and we're just running up the scoreboard, it is going to get ugly for them. I can't imagine it going any other way. And that's my thoughts on the game. My prediction, this is going to, I guess it depends on what your opinion of San Diego State is. I have a actually reasonably high opinion of San Diego State, but my prediction is going to be Utah 38, San Diego State 13. Now that could seem insulting if you're a San Diego State fan. I'm not trying to insult you guys. I really think what I'm saying is going to happen. I think our pass game is clicking. It looked really good. And I know it was against SUU, but if you watch it, I don't care who we were playing. Those throws looked amazing. Our receivers looked great. Our tight ends look great too. So I think we're going to get ahead early. It's going to be, 20-3, 21-7. And we're going to start pushing down on that gas pedal and starting to really make them, bend and have to change their way of playing because they can't run the ball with the clock continuing to drip down when they're down so much. And eventually they're just going to break. We're going to start to really take off, and they'll get some garbage time points. But I think 38-13 sounds like a fair guess to me. That's my opinion. Hey, if you guys enjoy the video, please do like it. It helps get it out to more Utes fans. It means a lot to me. It really goes a long way. Sometimes I don't like every channel's video that I watch or subscribe to, but I do like the ones that mean a lot to me. So if this channel means a lot to you, please do like the video. It means a lot to me, and I enjoy making these for you guys. Also, comment below. What is your prediction? What do you think is going to happen in the game? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I love interacting with you guys and building this community. And if you are a Utah football fan, do subscribe to this channel. I can't imagine any other place you'd rather be. I don't think anyone spends as much time and goes into as much detail as I do on this channel. And if they do, I'd love to have them on, and we could chat, and they can make my job a little easier. But outside of that, guys, it's going to be an awesome game. Have a good one. Enjoy the game. First FBS home game. I'm out of here. Go Utes.